CPH News at 6. I'm Shelly Richardson, and tonight we have a special anniversary airing of the worst environmental disaster in U.S. history, Love Canal. The chemical disaster took place in Niagara Falls, New York, in a community known as Love Canal, named because of a canal project that was started but never finished. It happened exactly 40 years ago when Love Canal was first proposed. It was planned to be a model community to live in, one that others would soon occupy. However, when the unfinished canal was bought by Hooker Chemical Company and became a dumping ground for over 22,000 tons of chemicals, it quickly became one of the worst environmental disasters in U.S. history. The community was home to approximately 800 all-American working-class citizens, many of whom were just beginning their adult lives. Our CPH News team has traveled to the area to interview a former resident.
Thank you, Shaylin. Today I'm speaking with one of the first residents to be evacuated from the Love Canal community back in 1980. Alexis, tell me what it was like to be a resident of the Love Canal community and to be told that your health is at stake due to the hazardous chemicals that were resting below your home.
It's honestly difficult to describe. It's like one day everything was fine. People were healthy, the kids were happy, and then you find out that your home rests on thousands and thousands of chemicals that are dangerous to human health. People were getting sick left and right. Kids were contracting rare diseases and dying from them. It was like living your worst nightmare and no one wants to listen or help.
It is understood that Lois Gibbs founded the Love Canal Homeowners Association and was the leader of the grassroots movement to get the canal evacuated and cleaned up. Did you know Lois and work closely with her?
Oh yes, Lois and I were very close. I remember when I first called her to see what could be done to help these innocent residents. She said, "We can't stay quiet. We have to protest and demand what we want. We have to protect our rights as U.S. citizens." Everyone followed Lois, and together we got the government to listen to us.
Okay. Tell me what happened first. What was the initial response by the government and health officials?
Well, first, the New York State Department of Health started to collect air and soil samples in the spring of 1978. In addition, they began to conduct health studies to find a link between the hazardous waste and disproportionate health effects among the community residents. At first, they just tried to give us money to compensate, but that's not what we wanted. We wanted evacuation.
Okay. Describe to me the day President Jimmy Carter ordered the official evacuation of the entire community. What was it like for you and the rest of the residents?
Oh my God. It was like we had won a war. It was an incredible feeling to know that your hard work and determination had finally paid off. We did it. We convinced the nation that there was something terrible happening here and it needed to stop. It was amazing knowing that you were getting help and relief to hundreds of your neighbors.
Okay. Why do you think it took 10 years for officials to complete the evacuation?
I honestly don't know. We felt so liberated when they first ordered the evacuation, but when it took 10 years to get everyone out, you just feel undermined. You feel like they didn't take you as seriously as you really thought they had.
What are your thoughts on the allegations and claims being made today by current residents?
It honestly breaks my heart to think that people this many years later are going through the same thing that me and so many others had to endure. We fought so hard to make this wrong right, and to see allegations being made that people are still being affected even after authorities deemed it safe for residency is just a reflection of our government and all its corrupt ways.
All right. Thank you for your time, Alexis. We appreciate this interview.
Thank you for having me.
The Hooker Chemical Company dumped thousands of tons of chemicals in the abandoned canal, which consisted of chemicals in solid and liquid form. These chemicals included benzene and dioxine. The company produced coral alkali products and used the canal to dump their chemical waste. After an unusual amount of rain, chemicals from the canal began to leach into the ground and into the homes of residents. Corroded barrels of chemicals emerged at the ground surface and puddles of chemicals sat in the roads. Exposures to these chemicals led to cancers such as leukemia, rare diseases, miscarriages, birth defects, severe burns on hands and faces, and less severe side effects such as headaches and dizziness. I'm Tegan Overturf with CPH News. Back to you, Shaylin.
In 1980, President Carter ordered an official evacuation of the whole community, yet it wasn't until 10 years later that the last family was evacuated. Additionally, the cleanup of the canal took roughly 21 years and cost $400 million. Love Canal was deemed safe for residency by authorities on May 15, 1990. But now current residents are making new claims that it may not be as safe as they were once led to believe. Our news team has traveled to upstate New York, where residents are claiming history is repeating itself.
Thank you, Shaylin. I'm here today to speak with one resident who believes living in this community is still a danger to the residents' health and livelihoods. Jacia thought Love Canal was a thing of the past when she moved here with her husband 5 years ago. They were expecting their first child with hopes of growing their family in the future. But now Jacia says she is too scared of what the consequences may be for her future children. So authorities claim that Love Canal is clean and safe for residency. Do you have any reservations or concerns about living in Love Canal today?
Of course I do. How are we supposed to believe officials when they say it's safe? They don't live here. They don't know what it's like to see your kids constantly sick. They don't understand the worry that keeps me up at night. It's honestly ridiculous. I feel so fearful for these kids that are out playing, exploring, and having fun like all the other kids should be doing, yet with 20,000 tons of chemicals buried beneath them. How's it fair to them?
So are only the big kids becoming sick, or is it also the adults and elderly affected as well?
Oh, it's everyone. There's times when I feel so dizzy and I think I'm going to pass out. I get short of breath for no reason. It doesn't discriminate. It affects everyone. I really do believe somehow that the chemicals are leaching into the soil and groundwater and into our homes. They say it's safe and contained, but how do they explain the random sickness? Just a few years ago in 2011, they found waste from Love Canal just outside a major sewer line, proving that what they have in place is just not working.
So has the EPA considered these claims or made any actions to ensure the safety of the residents?
No, they have not. We have reached out to them dozens of times, and they say that since there are so many monitoring wells in the area that they don't need us to test it. They simply just do not believe us.
So do you believe the protocol and monitoring system in effect today are sufficient enough?
No, the tools they use today are the same ones they used in 1978. It's not up to date, and it's not sufficient. They need to implement new modern-day technology. It's such a disservice to the residents of this community.
So this is all happening, why don't you just leave or move to a different part of town?
I can't. Who is going to buy my house? I couldn't bear the thought of selling to another family with the same young kids and putting them in the same position as I am. Also, I can't afford to leave. None of us can. Our hands are tied, and the only thing that we can do is try and protest and make sure people realize that Love Canal is not over with. We need to keep this fresh in everyone's mind. When they forget, that's when we are in trouble, and we won't let them forget.
Well, thank you for talking with us. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Although many current residents believe that they are still being exposed to the chemicals that were dumped 40 years ago, EPA officials stand by their statement that Love Canal is safe and contained. In retrospect, recent studies have been released claiming that present cancer rates in Niagara Falls, New York are equal to, if not lower, than other American cities, supporting the argument that the area is in fact safe to live in. I'm Sarah Abel with CPH News. Back to you, Shaylin.
Although Love Canal was a horrific tragedy, positive legislation was born out of the catastrophic event. Such legislation includes Superfund, otherwise known as CERCLA, or the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act. It is a government program which funds the cleanup of contaminated sites that harbor hazardous chemicals and pollutants. Additionally, Love Canal put a spotlight on environmental injustice and encouraged the rest of the nation to make sure something like this would never happen again. It remains just as important now as it was 40 years ago. I am Shaylin Richardson, and this is CPH News at 6. Thanks for watching and have a great night.